What is the most dangerous creature in the world? The mosquito.
Nearly every minute, a child dies of malaria in Africa.
Because of malaria, we are losing so many great children. Some die, or they get sick and may not have time for their talents to be nurtured.
If you lose a child, you have lost a generation.
This is the story of malaria. Long before Europe's empires crossed oceans or even carved up maps, Africa was already grappling with a powerful enemy, one too small to see but mighty enough to shape its own destiny: malaria. But to tell the story of malaria, we have to go back in time. Thousands of years ago, as kingdoms rose along the Nile, fevers swept through the population. The Egyptians described these mysterious illnesses in their medical journals. Some even believe that could have been the origin of malaria. Some historians also believe that malaria may have helped shape early settlements, forcing people to build on higher, less mosquito-ridden grounds and avoid certain riverbanks entirely. Even the powerful were not spared: pharaohs, kings, warriors. Centuries later, malaria would become the unintentional guardian of Africa. When the European colonizers first set foot inland of the African continent, they were decimated, not by warriors, but by the bites of the female Anopheles mosquito. Malaria kept the interior of the African continent largely protected from European conquest up until the late 19th century, earning it the nickname the white man's grave. But the tide began to turn with the discovery of quinine. Quinine is an extract from the bark of the cinchona tree, which is indigenous to South America and had been used for generations. Armed with this quinine, the colonizers were finally able to push into malaria zones, laying railroads, mining coal, mining gold, drawing borders, often at the expense of the African lives. But the colonial powers saw malaria as a threat to profit, so they invested in mosquito control, not for the local people, but to keep their soldiers and administrators alive. Swamps were drained, mosquito nets were introduced, insecticides were sprayed, mostly in European enclaves. For most Africans, malaria remained a deadly fact of life. Fast forward the 20th century, at the end of the Second World War, there was a renewed global interest in defeating malaria. The World Health Organization rolled out massive eradication campaigns in the 1950s and 60s. And while in some parts of the world like the United States and Europe, they succeeded, Africa was left behind. The reasons why Africa was left behind were complex, ranging from poor healthcare systems, poverty, illiteracy, and political instability. Mosquitoes were also growing resistant to insecticides, and the plasmodium parasite that causes malaria were also outsmarting other drugs. By the early 2000s, malaria was killing up to 1 million people yearly, mostly African children. But then came a new generation of weapons: the insecticide-treated bed nets, artemisinin-based combination therapies, and also global funding from organizations like the Global Fund and Gates Foundation. Countries like Rwanda, Ethiopia, Senegal began to show real progress. Death rates started to drop. In 2021, the first malaria vaccine was approved, called RTS, also known as Mosquirix. It was a historic moment. In 2023, a second vaccine followed, called R21 or Matrix M. While these are not magic bullets, they are the beginning of a new chapter. We need to tell these stories because we were taught that malaria was just a disease. But malaria is much more than a disease. It is a force that has shaped migration, war, empires. This story is woven into Africa's history and future. And while it has claimed millions of lives, the people of Africa have fought back with science, resilience, and hope. The story of malaria in Africa is not over yet, but maybe, just maybe, it will be one of victory.